record. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a Cecilia in Proghalla Progcast. I am here today. We've got Phil Keaggy, the great Phil Keaggy. We've got Kevin Belmonte, the great Kevin Belmonte, and of course, my co-hosts, Kevin McCormick and Tad Wirt. So we're going to start this off since we've got Phil here. Phil, this is great. You're only our third victim for this podcast series, and
Oh,
we had another Tennessean last week. We had Steve Babb of Glass Hammer. So we were going full prog. Now we're going full kind of acoustic experimental, and but also prog. So Phil, would you mind just giving us a bit of background, especially for our listeners?
okay. Well, it's good to see all of you folks and meet all you gentlemen, and to see Kevin again, Kevin Belmonte, and meet Kevin McCormick, and also Tad as well as you, Brad. I've been a musician now since 1961. I started playing in bands when I was in the sixth grade, and by the time I was in the eighth grade, I was recording with one of my early bands called the Squires. And from there, went through different bands in my teenage years, and then established a band called the Glass Harp, which was a three-piece improvisational band. We wrote songs, but our strengths were really how we were able to jam through those songs in those early days, like late 60s and early 70s. We were signed to Decca Records in 1970, produced by Louis Merenstein, who produced Van Morrison at the time. And we recorded at Electric Lady Studios in New York City. But our best album of the four that we had done, we did three studio albums, and then we did one live album at Carnegie Hall, where we opened up for the Kinks in November of 1971. That album shows what a good band we were. John Safara on drums, Daniel Pecchio on bass, and the three of us really gelled together. We really were the musicians that taught each other how to really play, I think. So those were remarkable days for me. But also during those days, I met Jesus and I became a Christian in February 1970, just about, 6 months or so before we went into the studio. I stayed on with the band. We toured the country. And then in 1972, I left. In 1973, I did my first solo album called What a Day, which was just me on all the instruments and vocals. And the engineer, Gary Hedden, did a remarkable job capturing the love of music and the love of Jesus and the good news, just communicating the gospel through that album. And he actually became a Christian by just the process of making that record together. And we're still friends today. He lives in Franklin, Tennessee. So that began a real journey of writing and musical recording, touring. So I got married in 1973 to my beautiful bride, Bernadette, and we have three grown children and uh, almost five grandchildren now. We have a fifth on the way.
Nice.
So that is what mostly that really occupies a lot of our time today. I don't tour, I don't do concerts anymore, but I'm very active in the studio. Uh, as you could see, with the new album that I uh, uh, created with Kevin Belmonte, and which was just I woke up this morning with Pater's hand in my head. You know, the music just keeps going on and on. The reason why I don't tour is because we got tired of it, traveling and schlepping gear around and all that, and I had hand surgery about 2 years ago, and
Oh,
it was some uh, arthritic trigger finger and thumb. But um, so I can play, but I have to pace myself. To do a full 2 hour concert on the acoustic is quite hard these days.
mhm.
So I can pace myself, and many people my age, our age, would understand what that means. And so but life is good, God is good, and I couldn't be really happier. I'm just so blessed. That's me in a nutshell.
That's fantastic, Phil. I'm gonna before I go to Kevin, I would really like to just ask you, we're very sympathetic with your Christianity, and so I'd really like to hear a little bit more about that and how that informs your art.
Okay. Kevin, would you like to address that, my friend?
Sure. Well, first of all, just a huge thanks to all of you. It's great to be with you. Uh, for me, meeting Phil for the first time was in the summer of '89 at a concert festival in Massachusetts at my alma mater, Gordon College. And Phil was very kind to me. I was just a college student then, and he signed my copy of Synergy, the Glass Harp album. And I got to hear him do a fantastic performance of one of my favorite songs, March of the Clouds, Under a Summer Sky. It was really special. So that's a favorite memory for me.
Mm,
But I knew Phil's music probably from around 1979 onwards, and I've always admired and been grateful for the ways that faith has shaped his artistry. It's just woven in there, part of the warp and the woof, as Edith Schaefer used to say. Um, and that I think that common interest has flowed over into the new album, really. Uh, it's such a tradition from Bach to Gerard Manley Hopkins or Tolkien, art being shaped by faith, whether it's with the written word or through music. And I've always appreciated what Phil has done and accomplished there. And what we often do is we share notes about favorite authors. As a
mm,
writer's exercise, I try and write poetry every now and then, and I'll send things along to Phil. And every once in a while, something catches his eye. It seems to resonate with him, and it calls to music. And that was the genesis for this album, Things of Heaven. And it's just, they have a front row seat for that unfolding. 14 songs coming into being, becoming a reality, the way that they cohere and flow together when they began as separate pieces, in
mm.
all credit and gratitude to Phil for the way that his studio artistry has just shaped these songs that began as poems and now have a place as songs. And it's been a real joy to see that unfold.
It's great.
I'd like to say that, my, I would say my main gift would be guitar playing, and a sense, excuse me, of melody. And what Kevin's poetry has done, it gave me an opportunity to exercise songwriting with his lyrics, which I love. I love old English things. I love a friend of mine even said this is such beautiful old English style poetry. I said, yeah, it could be a real hit in the halls of Oxford. You know, but the thing is, I recently, well, we did an album 3 years ago
Right.
called Pill, and I invited other singers to be a part of that.
Mm,
But this particular album, the guests that perform on this album with me are Adam Wurdzek on drums, Jerry Murata on drums,
Sure.
and Steve Brewster on drums, Larry Hall on keyboards, and he arranged the string quartet for Upon an Ancient Tree, which is toward the last part of the album. I knew that song needed a string quartet, and it just fulfilled it for me.
mm,
Lacking something, and I knew what it was, and he heard it, and he scored that. But it started with Pilgrimage, and Randy Stonehill, who is a mutual friend of Kevin and mine, and Randy I've been friends with since 1972, and
mm,
collaborated with him, toured with him. He's a great songwriter. He's a great wordsmith as well. Um, he loves that album. He listens to it all the time, and Calm as the Summer Sea is one of his favorite songs ever. And he always tells me that, and I pass those messages on to Kevin.
yeah.
So that's where it started. I think, for instance, I this past week I played on three of Wes King's new songs toward a new album for Wes. Wes is a remarkable songwriter. I'm a real fan of his music. His way of being honest through his lyrics just blows me away. Uh,
Nice.
I've had moments like that through my life, of those kind of lyrics where it's real honest and just confessional um but this this season in my life, I needed something like Kevin's poetry to keep me moving in the studio, as far as a vocal album is concerned. In fact, Son of Glory was the first piece, which was a Christmas song that you had
Yeah.
sent, Kevin, last December to me. And and we had no idea at that point that this was going to develop into an album. But then the poetry kept coming, and and an ode to George MacDonald, to Tolkien, to Randy Stonehill, to Paul McCartney, and all these different songs came into being, and I just took such delight in creating the music for it, the melodies for it, and so that's how that had developed. So very, very thankful for our friendship and our collaboration,
Yeah.
and thankful to be able to talk to you and the folks out there.
Yeah, sure. Well, Kevin, let's give you a moment to introduce yourself too, and give us a little bit of background. I know you, but our audience probably could benefit from a good explanation.
Sure. Well, for 30 years, I've been a writer and historian. After I got out of grad school, I had a remarkable experience. Os Guinness, an Oxford PhD and renowned cultural scholar, became a friend about that time as I was finishing grad school with a master's in church history. And so I felt the tug of history and biography as a writer. My first book was William Wilberforce's version of Mere
Sure.
Christianity, as it were, a practical view of Christianity, and I edited that from 1797. But all the while, I wanted to write a biography of Wilberforce. I felt like someone who did so much to make the world a better place, saw the evils of the slave trade and slavery, and thought, the labors of a whole life are worth that investment of time to try and rally people around getting rid of that horrible scourge to British life and in the empire. And so I wrote a book, and Os Guinness was so wonderful. Without my even knowing, he sent a copy of that book to the gentleman who founded the film company that did the film Amazing Grace in 2007. And so I was hired in January of 2001 to join the film crew and work with scriptwriters. I got to meet Colin Welland, who did Chariots of Fire. He did an early draft of the script. And we ended up going with the script that was written by Steve Knight, who's an Oscar-nominated screenwriter for the art house film. I think it was Dirty Pretty Things. He did a fantastic job crafting the final touches of the script. And so my book journey began really in tandem with a major film release, and that helped open so many doors.
Sure.
Um, as you can imagine, right around that time, if you'll remember, December 2005, I went to the Royal Albert Hall in London, and we had the premiere of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and we began rolling out the Wilberforce project. And I visited the set at the Duke of Northumberland's house there in London, Sion House. Uh, and I met William Wilberforce's great 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 granddaughter, Lady Davson, and it was a marvelous time. But all of those wonderful things were the springboard for other books on John Bunyan, who did Pilgrim's Progress, G.K. Chesterton, D.L. Moody. There have been so many others over the years, and the film really helped put me in a position where I could do more books over the years. But I've loved music all the while. My wife Kelly and I both had a background in classical music through choral performance when we were in college, and we toured Europe for a while, 1 year. And so music has always been a great love. And I feel like it's a chance to say something kind of Phil, because his music has been a part of my journey since I was in high school. And I've been very grateful for that. One of my fondest memories is the very first car I ever had was a 1970 Plymouth Duster, and it only had an 8-track player in it. I feel like Gene
Nice,
Lumpkin.
nice.
It only had
Wow.
an 8-track, and I had an 8-track copy of Phil's fantastic album, Love Broke Through. And I just have such fond memories of driving through southern New Hampshire between my home and Phillips Exeter Academy, where I worked my way through college, um, and listening to that album and getting to know it backwards and forwards. And just, I mean, I learned C.S. Lewis's poem, As the Ruin Falls, because Phil had set it to music. So all the way,
Wow.
you know, all the way back then.
I love it. That is great.
So
Well,
yeah, there've been lots of books over the years. Phil was kind enough to mention Pilgrimage in 2023. Um, I just have a wide interest in all things relating to the arts, and so uh, I think it was sort of inevitable in a way that Phil and I would meet and connect in one form or another because we have a lot of mutual friends, and that's nice.
yeah,
absolutely.
Um,
We
so
should.
yeah,
yeah, that's great.
hopefully that's a little bit of an overview.
Oh, that's fantastic, Kevin. So I do want to ask you. I've got two questions for you. Have you always been? Are you born Christian? Is it something that you came to later in your life, your Christianity? And the other question I have is, have you been able to make a career out of writing, or do you have a career adjacent to writing as well?
Okay, well, I'll take the first question first. I came to faith in Christ when I was 12 years old. My church attendance was spotty growing up. Um, I do remember being in Sunday school prior to that time and learning, verses and things and doing some sort of catechism things. And those planted good seeds. But I remember, and I always marvel over this. I had a friend in sixth grade who was not a Christian and has never become one, but she loved the Narnia books. Now, at that point in my life, I was what, 11, 12 years old. I'd never heard of C.S. Lewis, had no idea who Tolkien was. But my friend was so insistent, you've got to read these Narnia books. And reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and then Prince Caspian, I remember so well just being in my room by myself and thinking about it all. Of course, I knew that Aslan was an allegorical imagining of Christ, a Christ figure in those stories. And so I said a prayer all on my own, you know, uh, asking God into my heart, wanting to become a Christian, things that I'd heard. But the Narnia books were very formational in that way. The seeds that were sown in church and that in tandem really helped bring that transformation about for me. And so I felt a deep affinity for C.S. Lewis all these years and have read his writings avidly. And I've got a new book coming out in 2027 from HarperCollins through their Thomas Nelson imprint called The Unexpected C.S. Lewis, which is dedicated to Phil, I need to say.
Oh, nice. That's
Um,
great.
because
Wow.
it's just it's always a source of marvel to me, really, and gratitude that right about the time that I was becoming a Christian, Phil was putting the final touches to his Love Broke Through album. And of course, C.S. Lewis is a major presence there. So all these years later, to be working with Phil, when as a 12-year-old, I could never have imagined
Right. Right.
anything like what we've been describing here. Um, William Wilberforce used to say, "A gracious hand leads us in ways we know not."
Wow.
And I've always loved that because he was basically saying, just a paraphrase of the psalmist, surely goodness and mercy have followed me all the days of my life. And so, yeah, I mean, I echo what Phil says. This has been a special season, and it's really kind of a capstone to sit down with all of you and just walk through it all, really.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so what about your career then?
Oh, yes, I have been able to make a living as an author,
Okay,
which
good
I
for you.
realize is very rare. Um,
It's pretty
I
wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because the publishing industry these days is in a constant state of flux. Companies are merging. You never know from one day to the next if you'll be talking to a publicist, if they've been let go, who your point person is. You have to be rather nimble. But I've been very grateful. Bucky Rosenbaum is my literary agent, and he was Rick Warren's agent for The Purpose-Driven Life, if that rings a bell with some of
Sure.
you. So Bucky's been a real force in the publishing industry for a long time, and he's helped me to navigate, the ever-changing waters, it seems, of the publishing world. But I've been very grateful. I've been able to do, depending on how you count, the books I've contributed to or the books that I've maybe written a chapter for, uh, and the ones I've done myself. I think a little over 30 books now
Yeah, that's
since
great, Kevin.
96.
Yeah,
Um, and it's not any one book that is the sort of the golden goose, financially speaking. They all contribute in their several ways to helping the picture. And I've been grateful. I often say, people like Wilberforce and people like Chesterton are helping to put my son through college. So,
Yeah, that's
which is a
wonderful.
nice thing. So yeah,
Yeah,
hopefully that answers your question.
it does. Thanks, guys. Thanks to both of you. That was a great introduction. So, Tad, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you run with some questions, and then we'll turn it over to Kevin McCormick.
Sure. Yeah. So, Kevin, I got into C.S. Lewis through the Chronicles of Narnia as well,
Hmm.
and then I read the Space Trilogy. Then I started reading some of his nonfiction, and I remember him saying that he was indebted to this guy named G.K. Chesterton. So I thought, well, I better check him out. And
Yeah.
now I love Chesterton. Man Who Is Thursday is one of my favorite books, and The Everlasting Man. And I was
Yes.
wondering if that's how you connected with Chesterton as well.
When I was in grad school, I remember just loving to get down to the library. And uh, one of the things George MacDonald used to write about in his books and it was something that people did back in the 1800s and earlier, they would go into a library and just walk along the shelves and read the spines of the books. Every once in a while, you take one down that caught your eye. So our library in grad school was really rich in antiquarian books. But I remember going into one particular row of shelves, and I saw what looked to me like a 5 foot long shelf of books, and they were all by Chesterton.
Hmm.
And it was the marvelous Ignatius Press sets of editions of Chesterton's works. And I just remember thinking, wow, I had no idea someone could write so many things. And of course, that was an incomplete set. But I made a mental note at the time, and I said, I probably ought to check this guy out. And right about the time that I finished my book on John Bunyan, Chesterton had some marvelous things to say about Bunyan, who he greatly admired. I remember one passage he was comparing Bunyan to Homer and the Odyssey. It was really quite compelling. So I thought, I'm going to read up some more. And I began to read. I'm trying to remember the first book that caught my eye. Of course, I knew about The Everlasting Man, but it was probably Orthodoxy
Hmm.
that caught my eye first. And then the prequel, Heretics. And I remember thinking, wow, how prescient are these books? They seem to be writing about our moment in time in 1905 or 1908, because human nature never really changes. Uh, and I just thought, for someone to be writing that insightfully, that eloquently, when he was only in his 30s, I mean, I was tempted to throw up my hands and say, I should quit, and just read Chesterton. But uh, no, it's been a marvelous journey. And I think the advent of technology, that common grace of being able to find old magazine articles and descriptions of him that would otherwise be gathering dust in rare book rooms and repositories, that has been a great gift. And it's helped my most recent book, G.K. Chesterton on Life, which is from HarperCollins as well, to put together a compendium of Chesterton quotes and just have the ability to dig deep in ways that you couldn't if you were to physically walk into a library. Uh, that particular journey has been a wonderful thing for me. I've discovered so many things that I hadn't read before, and I've been reading Chesterton for close to 30 years. And Os Guinness is fond of saying that Chesterton is a deep well. There's no getting to the end of him. Oh, thanks, Phil.
It's a bit of an it's a fantastic little book, honestly.
Oh,
Yeah.
Don't let
great.
the
We
size fool
we
you.
we wondered where you went, Phil.
Yeah, it's a small size book, but the print is, you have to have your glasses on. But so it's loaded, it's chock full of gems, Chesterton gems. So congratulations to you. This is on the best-selling list, isn't it?
Well,
Amazing.
it came out as Amazon as the number one new release in a few categories, which has never happened from before. So thank you, Phil. That's very kind.
That's great.
That's great. Well,
So is that
let's
a
talk
new
about.
release? Is that just newly out?
Yeah, just out at the end of April.
Oh wow.
Oh, okay.
Only been a month or so.
Great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I'm definitely going to order it then.
Yeah, me
Oh,
too.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the new album. Y'all shared the tracks with us, and I've been listening to them nonstop for the past few days.
No kidding.
And yeah, it's beautiful. It's like you said in your notes, it's really a song cycle, isn't it?
Hmm.
And it all coheres together into one big piece, I think, one suite of music. And Kevin, I was wondering, how do you choose the subjects for your lyrics? Because you've got Randy Stonehill and you've got George MacDonald, Vincent Van Gogh, Paul McCartney. So where do you get the inspiration for all these various subjects that you're writing about?
Part of it is just points of curiosity in my reading.
Mhm.
You come across something that strikes you, and you think, okay, I want to explore that a little bit and see if maybe there's something there that speaks to me in verse form. But a lot of it is shared interests with Phil. We both have a great mutual admiration for Paul McCartney, and just, I mean, the way even now with his new album, he just continues to be creative and find ways to tell stories in song. Of course, we all grew up listening to the Beatles and to his solo projects. So we were very touched with one particular song. Here it is, that's written in Sir Paul's honor on the album, to learn that he had had a bass guitar that was stolen. I think it was in the early 70s and had been missing for like 50 years. And there was a BBC documentary that traced the recovery of that instrument and how it was restored. And I remember seeing a film clip, and I sent it along to Phil, where they
Yeah.
actually brought it in the old case. And the case looked like it had been through the wars. I mean, you can't imagine anything inside would be intact. And they opened it up, and there was this beautifully restored Hofner bass guitar that had been there from the earliest days of Beatlemania. And Paul picked it up and he goes, "Here it is. Look at that." And I just, like, those words, I thought, wow, they kind of have a rhythm to them. And I just squirreled that away. And then he picked it up, and he hadn't plugged it in yet to play it. He was just plucking the strings without it being plugged in. Then he plugged it in. All of a sudden, these bass lines from songs that we all knew and grew up with, they were living again. And so just in the course of conversation with Phil, I think there were things that sparked up by way of interest that led us both mutually to think that might be a song. Wouldn't you say, Phil?
Oh yeah. When you sent me that that link to view that, when he opened up the case and Martin's letter, and Martin, who restored the bass, the Hofner
Yeah.
bass, and then you sent the lyrics to me, and I immediately thought of Day Tripper, ba ba da 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 bo da bo da da, and but I came up, I heard a different line, of course, because it has to be a different line. Ba-da-dum, da-dum, ba-da-da-dum. I don't know whatever it was. I can't sing it right now. It's kind of quirky, but it's in the same tempo as Day Tripper.
Mm.
And I was looking for that kind of drum and energy. And I I brought my friend Adam Wurdzek in, who can play anything on the drums, and
Mm.
he nailed it, just like the Day Tripper drums that Ringo had done. I got my Hofner bass, I got my Gretsch, my Strat, my Vox amp, and this tune just unfolded just like. And the thing is, I had bronchitis at the time I wrote the music to Kevin's lyrics, and I hit every note I wanted to hit. In fact, there's a certain edge to it that now, all things work together for good. And I, even at the last part where these ahs go up, in three-part harmonies, and doubled them, and I'm hitting that high B note up there, just holding on to it. And I go, look at that. I was like, hey, look at that. And I sent it to Kevin, and it kind of blew him away. And that, I think, was in the midst of all the poems you were sending me, that song. And
Yeah.
then started coming and flowing. And so that's the story with that. I actually did send to my friend Laura Eastman Malcolm, who is Linda McCartney's sister, for her to listen to it, and she got a real kick out of it. And you never
Hmm,
know, she pass it on to Sir Paul, the song. Wouldn't that be something to hear back from him about it?
that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Now, I should tell you about maybe a few of the other songs. Randy Stonehill, again, that someone that Phil and I have been grateful for friendship with. I first heard Randy in '82, right out of high school,
Mhm.
uh, perform with the great Mark Hurd opening for him.
Mm.
And I just remember Randy's gift for standing there with a solo acoustic guitar, uh, telling stories, but the way his songs just seemed to capture moments. That was the time when his Equator album released, and I loved songs like uh, Light of the World and China, The
Yeah.
Best of Friends. So many songs that just had a way about them, and I was captivated, and I've been a fan ever since. And of course, Phil's known him far longer and much better, but we wanted, at least I did in writing the lyrics, wanted to offer a tip of the cap to him and say thank you.
And yeah,
Uh,
and he's still around. So wow, that's a great idea to honor somebody while they're still here.
well, and it's so true. You know, I've often been sad about that, that they offer testimonials and they create monuments, they present awards posthumously after someone has passed off the scene. And
Mhm.
if you've been fortunate enough as I have been or blessed, and I know Phil has, to meet people along the way who've been an encouragement, who've offered the gift of friendship, who've walked the road with you a ways,
Mhm.
to be able to say thank you is, I think, a lesson in gratitude that I try and follow
Absolutely.
through on. You know,
Yeah.
uh, with the other songs, the Van Gogh, that's special to me. The song for Vincent Van Gogh, The Painter's Hand. I have a nice writing office here in Maine where I live. I was looking out the window at twilight, and the sky had that kind of color blue, and the stars were just starting to come out through the beautiful maple trees that we have. They're very tall out in our back meadow, and it just looked like the painting Starry, Starry Night. Oh, well, there you have it. It looked like that.
But it's got a kind of a Starry Night vibe.
Yeah.
Yes,
Nice.
absolutely. Um, and so I sat down and I wrote the words, and I just thought, Vincent van Gogh was troubled, and that's part of the sadness and tragedy of his story. But there's an element of grace, I think, there too, that in times when he was deeply troubled and lonely and even depressed, he was given the gift of painting these amazing landscapes. There's a clip from Doctor Who that I love where they imagine what it would be like for Vincent van Gogh
A great
to come.
episode.
Isn't it wonderful?
Yeah.
He comes forward to the present, and I don't know if they take him to the d'Orsay or not there in Paris, but they have him meet an art critic, and he tells Vincent all that his art has come to mean to the world. And it's one of my favorite moments ever in television. Television really can be special when it wants to be. And our friends at the BBC knocked it out of the park with that episode. But it's that kind of gratitude. I mean, I listened to Don McLean's beautiful song Vincent as a younger person and still do with great appreciation. But that twilight sky, there was something about it that spoke to me. And I thought about the painter's hand, how Van Gogh was able to capture a moment and bring it to life through these vibrant colors. And it was like what I was seeing there in the sky. So it was really a chance to acknowledge a debt. And I sent it off to Phil. And one of the things that I so appreciate about Phil is his intuitive gift for artistry. When I first heard the demo, the first track version of it, Phil had brought in the sounds of birds singing at twilight. Now, he has no way of knowing this, but every night the robins and the birds here in Maine give us a concert. And it's one of the most precious things that I like about living in the country. And there it was in the song, and I hadn't said a word to Phil about it. And it leads into his beautiful acoustic ballad. And so every once in a while, there's a special sort of alchemy, I think, that takes place
Mhm.
where you have a basis in friendship. Uh, Somewhere between the word and the music, there's a transformation. And Phil's great gift, it's always seemed to me, is he bridges that so seamlessly. And I've been grateful. So thank you, Phil.
Welcome. And Kevin McCormick, it's interesting. When I got the lyrics to A Painter's Hand, I had just visited my friend Grant Batson, who is an artisan, very gifted man, and he's made guitars and made a lot of things. Uh, he had a guitar there when I was at his house, and I just picked it up, and it was an alternate tuning, but one that I was not familiar with. And I've come up with like 25 different alternate tunings over the years. I've got a list of them for various songs, and because I love experimenting with what can happen musically when you change the tuning, Kevin,
Mm.
as you to your guitar. Like for instance, Fare Thee Well and County Down and Fragile Forest. Those particular songs on Beyond Nature were born out of creating an alternate tuning. Well,
Wow.
tuning was C, G, C, G, A, D. Then I put the capo on the second fret. I got my Tom Bedell parlor guitar, and I created a B minor shape, and that was the opening chord with an open
Wow.
A.
Yeah.
And there, and I just heard the melody. It had a Fool on the Hill kind of a resonance, because of the sixth that's in it,
Mm.
and it just started to unfold. And I remember when I recorded the song, I put in a click track, and I just sang the melody. I didn't have the words. I just sang the melody as I read the words in like a soft voice, falsetto voice. That gave me my blueprint, my schematic, as it were, for the creating of the song. And I put two of those guitars, together, and then I sang the lyric. Then I added, some hand slapping on the lap, and uh, fretless bass and electric guitar, which the tone of the electric guitar on that song is so unusual. I was able to achieve it through some effects, but it's just so sweet. And that song is usually in my head as soon as I wake up in the morning. I hear the melody, I hear the tones. Um, and then, of course, the birds, I added that to it, and I said that's what it needs. So what else was I going to say? Oh, and then the closing song on the whole album is called Rêver, which is a French word that means to dream, right, Kevin?
That's right.
Yeah, to dream. And uh, I love those particular pieces of Eric Satie, and I always wanted to create something like that. And so it's that same guitar, the parlor guitar, the same tuning this at the second fret, C G C G A D, and then the melody came. I played the melody on the classical guitar right in the middle with the two guitars on each side. It's very sparse and very simple, but it's very deep. And so they're cousins. In fact, I think I did a mix blending Painter's Hand into
Oh,
Revere.
wow.
Remember
That's
that?
great.
Yeah.
Yes.
That could be like a little special edition somewhere. Uh, turns out to be about 6 minutes by blending the two together.
Mm.
It's a lovely theme that comes across, I think. So I thought Kevin McCormick would find that interesting.
Yeah, that's great. In fact, Phil, you actually anticipated my question for you, which was going to be, what is your typical compositional approach? Or do you have one, or is it just independent? It's just sort of approaching each one's independently.
The first step that I take, if, for instance, in the case of putting music to a poem that really strikes me by Kevin, or a song that I might come up with myself, the first approach is it's like when Jesus says, when you pray, go into your closet. You know, uh, I go into my studio, which is down in the basement floor of my house, and I just start concentrating. I start, you know, letting my mind and my heart, my soul be filled with inspiration. And then, I work with the technical, I work with the guitars, get it tuned, and just see what comes out. And I must say, 80% of the time, something comes out, something comes
It's good.
accomplished. It's because it's like I've noticed that when I do write a song by myself that contains my lyrics and my music and melody, the most important thing to do is get that pencil or that pen in hand and that piece of paper in front of you and just start going with it. Well, that's what I love about Wes King's writing, for instance. I played on 3 of his songs this week. They're so honest and so well written, crafted. The imagery is amazing. But he has a special gift as a songwriter. I think I have a better gift at adapting lyrics, like the C.S. Lewis poem. I've written like 7 songs out of the book by H.A. Ironside, The Continual Burnt Offering. Do you ever heard of that book?
Yes.
The Continual Burnt Offering. Maker of the Universe was one of those songs, which is one of the most profound lyrics that I've ever put to music. And Kevin's writing is in that vein. It's part of that particular style and ilk, I think, which I really do appreciate, because like the Gospels, when you read the Gospels, the words of Jesus, the common people heard him gladly, deep, profound, but simple. And you could wrap your head around a lot of it. It doesn't have to get seriously complicated and theological. It's almost like plain speak. Is that a proper way to put it?
Yeah.
Plain. And I kind of relate to those kind of words. They just get to the meaning right away, and so. But putting melody to words has been something I've always loved to do. Yes.
Great. It's a great skill, and it's actually a skill that's not as common as you might think, because it's very difficult to do. I don't think people realize how hard it is to work that direction, because most more writers and especially in the genre of say progressive rock, they begin with the music first, and then the lyric is placed on top of that, and oftentimes the vocal line will be placed on top of that, which is an interesting way to work. But to work the other direction can be, I think, really difficult, as I've tried to do in the past.
Right. Back in the early 80s, when I did a little homespun album called Underground, I would come up with a bass line and play it to a drum machine, and like Deadline or Think About It and songs like that. And, then words would come. It depends on how the song wants to be written, how it wants to be formed. It's almost like personality,
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I also want to make sure we highlight a couple of songs from the album, especially Son of Glory. When I first heard that, I thought it sounds like a timeless Christmas classic already, and it's a brand new song. I think the words and the music are beautiful in that. And I really hope that becomes, like I said, a Christmas classic that congregations sing every Advent season.
My goodness.
Oh, wow.
I love it.
That's something. Maybe if there were a couple million of you.
Yeah.
We're trying.
Well, you're kind enough to mention that song. Every once in a while, something will come to me in the middle of the night, which I try not to have happen too much. I'm fond of sleep, but every once in a while, I wake up with words in my mind. And Son of Glory was one of them. I was thinking about Christmas, as we all do in Advent season. It's something that we go through on the successive Sundays. We think about things, we do readings. But I woke up one evening and I had those words in my mind, and I wanted, while the inspiration was there, to try and write it out, flesh it out as much as I could. And it just seemed to really flow. And what I try to do for friends, I mean, I like sending Christmas cards that you buy from Hallmark and that sort of thing, but I like to make them too. I love looking through old magazines and old art books and finding illustrations, works of art, and putting them next to something I may have written in verse and making a card. And so I sent that particular set of verse to Phil as a card, just to say, Merry Christmas. I hope you and your family have a great time. And a few days later, Phil sent me a link with a Dropbox for this song that he'd created. And what a Christmas gift.
Yeah,
Mm.
Uh,
the illustration of baby Jesus in the manger, right? That's
yes, but a painting by Correggio, I think it was, um, which is one of my favorites. And yeah, thank you for saying that you thought that there's something timeless in those words. I really tried to stay close to what you read in Luke's gospel in Luke chapter 2, that kind of feeling. And somehow you get very grateful when the words seem to flow in that way. And it's almost like you're trying to write them down. They're already there. You're just trying to catch them in the air.
uh-huh.
Um, that happened one other time with doing things with Phil with the song that we did together on the Pilgrimage Project, Morning of My Seeking,
Mm.
which is a fantastic rock anthem that Phil created. Um, but I woke up with the words in the middle of the night, and I sort of stumbled into my writing office and turned the computer on and typed them up and went back to bed. And
Mm.
I looked at them, later that morning, and I thought, gee, this isn't that bad. And so I sent it off to Phil. Um, just as we often do, we do sort of compare notes on our journey kind of thing informally. And those words spoke to him and became something very special. That's one of my favorite songs.
And it has I was thinking Led Zeppelin.
Yes.
And
Oh,
I even brought some string players in to play on it, and I played a 12-string acoustic on it, just like, uh Stairway to Heaven-ish. But yeah, it did work really well. And when and back
Led
to
Zeppelin's Christmas classic, I guess that's what it is.
oh, well,
well, now, Tad, you had one other song I think you wanted to mention. I'm sorry, I got a little.
Yes, no, that's fine. Yeah, Rider of the Dawn, which is just a beautiful Easter hymn. I
Mm.
love that song as well.
yeah, and it's simple, just a couple guitar
Yes.
voice. It's real simple. My friend Robin Maudsley, who's helped over the years with my music and publishing and stuff like that, that particular song stood out to her. Of course, she's seen McCartney in concert over 20 times, and so her favorite is Here It Is. But she also cited Rider of the Dawn, and um, I love the classical guitar on that one. Kevin, you
Mm.
heard of Kevin McCormick? Have you heard this album yet?
I have not actually. I missed the memo, so I'm afraid I haven't had a chance to. I just noticed it's in our Dropbox though, so I'll give it a listen today.
Yeah, yeah. So, is it the mastered versions, Kevin
Yes,
Belmonte?
I sent the first mastered versions, not Rex's final, because I hadn't had them yet. So I can send, if with your permission, of course, the
Yes.
most recent ones.
Yeah, that would be great. That'd be great. There's a tune called In Spring that is really the flip side of Here It Is, because
Yes.
I'm thinking, okay, I need some harmonium on this one, and it's got a we can work it out thing, which happened to be the flip side of Day Tripper back in
Hmm.
1955.
Mm. Mm.
Yes.
So it's like amazing how all the years really do influence who we are today, isn't that right? What
Sure.
we listen to, how we develop, and it's for the joy of it. I was thinking about Son of Glory again. I did a Christmas album back in 2009 called Welcome In.
Mhm.
And that song could have fit on Welcome In. It has
Mhm.
the same spirit because the tune Welcome In and Village Bells and on that day, various songs on that particular Christmas album, Son of Glory would have fit perfectly on that. But I'm glad it's on this one, and I'm glad we waited. I'm glad it came in its due time at the proper time.
Yes.
Well,
Well,
Phil, going back to Revere, the file name that we got said Revere Satire, and I was listening to it thinking, I don't know if this is satire, but it does sound a lot like Eric Satie, and I think it was a typo.
Oh yeah, well, Tab, that was my working title before it was,
Okay.
and I think Kevin and I were discussing, something to dream, to rest.
Yes.
And didn't you come up with the Revere, Kevin?
Well, it was interesting progression. Once we had probably around 8 or 9 tracks, I remember thinking uh, how much I love Phil's ballad from the Find Me in These Fields album, the title track,
Oh yeah.
um, with his beautiful cello from, I think, John Catchings. Phil, is that right? Yep, there you have it. Yes, there it is. Um, and I thought, would it be okay, perhaps, Phil, would you mind writing an instrumental just to break up the sequence of songs with a nice instrumental break, something in the tradition of Find Me in These Fields? And so we got this beautiful song from Phil, Selah, which is that phrase from the Psalms, which is basically a grammatical note, which means to pause. Pause in your reading, but pause to reflect. And so it's so fitting that the song bears that title. But then as we got to the end, the title track is, of course, Things of Heaven. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice to have a reprise? Something that's sort of dreamy in the way that reprises so often were on the albums that we all knew and loved growing up with, where you revisit a song and you just have sort of an echo or reference. And Phil wrote a beautiful reprise. And so I think it was right there that Phil had been saying he wanted to do an instrumental in the style of the artist that you mentioned. And where should it go? And I thought, well, okay. Well, the reprise has sort of this dreamy, uh, drifting off into a wonderful realm quality to it. Maybe right after the reprise, Revere could go in there and just sort of be, you imagine the realm with the reprise, you step into that realm with Revere kind of thing. I think that's how it went, Phil.
That's how it is. And I used satire as just a working title until we came up with the word revere, which I looked up, and it meant to dream. And with R-E, with that little, roof of
Right.
a house.
The carrot.
What do you, asterisk? What do you call it?
Carrot, I think. Is that right?
Yes.
I think it's called a carrot.
Oh, good.
My French is rusty as either accent, ague, and all these different things I don't remember anymore.
I think in
Yeah.
English it's a carrot, but
Yep.
Phil, I'm no expert on this.
Well, you got a lot of
So
books, buddy.
not in French. No, no.
It,
Kev, did you have anything else you wanted to ask? Kevin
Well,
McCormick?
actually, my question had a little bit to do, was directly for Phil and regarding his collaboration for Cosmic Cathedral. I was just curious, is that something that's going to continue, or was that a one-off kind of event?
well, it was an interesting thing. I've known Neil Morris, who is a genius, a prog rock genius and a sweet man. I've known him for, I guess, since the early 2000s, perhaps, over 25 years. And he invited me to guest on his album. I think it's called One, early
Yeah,
one
of
of his
course.
Yeah.
and uh and then we did a couple things live back in those days. Uh but he invited me and Chester Thompson and Byron House. Those two guys are amazing musicians.
Yeah.
It's a who's who of, great musicianship. Chester's played with Weather Report and Frank Zappa and Genesis.
Genesis.
Yeah, and Byron's House has been with, Robert Plant, Emmylou Harris, and hundreds of artists. And they're both fantastic and humble guys, but seriously talented. So Neil invited me and the guys to come up to White House, Tennessee, where he lives, and just jam and record our jams and see what comes out of it. And I did, and music got shaped. Well, he shaped those jams into songs, and,
Wow.
and they were going to track in July of 2024, 2 years coming up. And that's when I had hand surgery and I couldn't be a part of the tracking.
Oh, jeez. Oh,
That was providential, in my opinion. So by October, I started getting my facilities back. And I said, I will do all my guitar parts in my studio. And as a result of that, I played better. I got the sounds I wanted.
Mm.
It couldn't have been better. I
Hmm.
couldn't achieve that had I been playing those parts up there as Chester did on the drums. Byron did on the bass, but Byron did some work at home in his studio too. I did all my vocals, my harmonies, I do a lead vocal on Walking in Daylight, and I did that up at actually I did that in my studio. But all the harmonies I did up in Neil's studio. Uh,
Okay.
whether there'll be another one, I'm open to the idea. But I tell you what, we did a concert last October 14th, I believe. And no, actually, I think it might have been the 17th of October. And a 2 hour long concert, both LPs were performed. And I had woodshedded day in and day out. We did 12 rehearsals just to be able to pull it off. And
Wow.
Oh,
did a really good job, but it's a
Wow.
lot of work. Uh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
will,
I imagine.
but
I
I
mean, they're
did.
very intricate. They're intricate pieces, very much like any prog rock would be. And so that's you can't just leap in and fake it.
No, you can't. And a lot of the album was, pieced together like a puzzle,
Mm,
And so to pull that off with the time, time signatures and tempo changes,
right.
with, that it was quite complicated. And we had to pull that off live. Poor
Wow.
Chester. I mean, he worked so hard. And I'm so proud
I
so proud
bet.
of the guy. And and at his age, I'm 75. I think he's 77. To be able to play that well,
for
Yeah,
two
that's
hours.
yeah,
Wow.
he did
amazing.
well played. And Byron is just amazing. And Neil is just he's a force to be dealt with. He's just amazing. So it was an honor to be part of it. I think the prog rock listening world, I think there's a small percentage that really embraces the message of Neil's lyrics.
Mm,
I do because I resonate with Jesus is Lord, and he's our Savior, and he's our rescuer, and he's the answer, and I rejoice in that. But I think and I hope it really touches other people. A friend of mine up in Pennsylvania, Neil Williams, he's probably listened to that album over 100 times,
Oh,
and
wow.
it just moves him every time. It's his favorite album, from what I
Mm.
understand. It's
that's
a
great.
Yeah.
Well,
So
Phil, we're
invite me to do another album, I might be very open to doing that, but to perform it, that's a
Yeah.
yeah, we're all Neil Morse fans, so
oh, that-
we have huge appreciation for him. I've been listening to him since 1994 or five when the first Spock's Beard album came out. So yeah, he's been a constant part of my life for at least 30 years.
yes.
So
Yeah, and
He's
Brad, you and I saw Phil open for him at a
yeah,
North Fest.
we saw you, Phil. You were fantastic. We saw you open at Morse Fest. That
oh
was
yeah,
about a decade ago too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's right.
you were amazing.
He's,
Just amazing.
um,
Like
hear this
mind-bogglingly good.
hear this interview? Could you send it to him?
To
The link?
Neil?
Yeah,
Oh, sure. I don't. Tad, do you have a connection to him?
I do.
Well, Phil, why don't you send it to him?
Yeah.
Then and yeah, we'll do that. That would be great, and it would be wonderful if he would come on as well. I mean, we would love that.
He's
So
ex- he's great at interviews. He really is.
yeah, I mean that would be fantastic. Well, guys, this has been great. We should probably go. We've been going an hour, so I feel like we should probably go ahead and kind of wind things up. But Phil, Kevin, my gosh, we're so honored that you guys took the time to do this. It really means a lot. I know you're busy. We're all busy, but man, this is something good to talk about. Kevin McCormick and Phil, I really hope you guys exchange music with each other.
Oh,
Yeah.
Phil, I would love to know what you think of Kevin's. Kevin has done. I mean, I'll brag on Kevin for a moment. We were roommates in college, and our senior year, Kevin won the National Poet Award for
oh,
Best College Poet in the
oh,
country. And I mean, he's a classical guitarist. He's extremely talented. So I would just love it if you guys, kept up a friendship from this point forward. That would be really cool.
Great. Hey, maybe you or Kevin Belmonte could send me Kevin's contact and Tad. I'd like to keep in touch with Tad as well.
Absolutely.
And, you too, Brad. Yes.
Thanks,
Yes,
Phil. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're ever out in Kerrville, we've got an apartment you can stay in if you need one.
Thank you.
Both of you, actually. Yeah, both. I mean, actually.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, we actually have a place in Hillsdale too that you guys, if you're ever in Southern Michigan, we'd love to have you come. So it'd be great. We have the guest house. So yeah, it'd be wonderful. Well, guys, again, thank you so much for your time. This has been a real blessing for us. And thanks for sharing your faith. That means everything to us. Thanks for sharing your art and your time. It's just beautiful. So that's, we're, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Saint Cecilia, but in the Catholic Church, she's the patron saint of music. And that's what our site is named after. So we're not all Catholic, but we are ecumenically Christian. So that's our patron, Saint Cecilia. So love of art, love of music. All right, everybody. Oh, Phil, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just say thank you for the interview. I enjoyed it so much.
Oh, good. Thank you. Yeah, and Kevin, thank you too. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right, everybody. This has been Cecilia in Proghalla, Progcast number 3 with Kevin Belmonte and Phil Keaggy. What a great time, everybody. Thank you so much, and God bless.
God bless you guys.
God bless.
Bless.
Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.